Imagine this. You're walking through a sunlit forest at dusk. The golden light breaks through the trees, casting long, beautiful shadows. But as you keep walking, you notice something strange. The shadows are growing darker, thicker. They begin to follow you, slithering just beyond reach, mimicking your every move. You try to run, but they keep up. Because they aren't behind you. They are you, the darker part of you that you never wanted to face. What if the enemy you've been praying against, the pain you've been trying to outrun, the habit you've been desperately trying to kill, wasn't a foreign invader, but a neglected corner of your own soul? Carl Jung called it the shadow, the part of the psyche we exile because it offends our sense of goodness. It's everything you deny, repress, or judge in yourself. The rage behind your smile, the pride behind your humility, the lust behind your purity. You dress up for church, you speak gently, you try to love, but underneath the kindness, something dark flickers. And maybe it's not your enemy, but your mirror. What if the path to wholeness isn't the path of suppression, but confrontation? Why does the very act of being good so often feel like hiding? Why do we secretly enjoy the things we claim to hate? Why is the monster in your nightmares wearing your face? And here's the real question. What happens to your soul when you spend your life amputating half of who you are in the name of being good? The light of Christ may redeem all things, but only what is brought into the light can be saved. So the question isn't whether you have a dark side, it's whether you're brave enough to look it in the eye. And that's where the real story begins. We are taught to fear our darkness. From the earliest moments, we're told to smile, behave, suppress the tantrum, quiet the questions, bury the envy. And for good reason. Civilization depends on restraint. But what if, in this well-meaning discipline, we learn something far more dangerous than rebellion? We learn to lie to ourselves. Jung didn't invent the shadow, he merely gave it a name. The Apostle Paul felt its weight centuries earlier. For what I want to do, I do not do, but what I hate, I do. Augustine called this inner war concupiscentia, the disordered desires that twist even our holiest intentions. Calvin saw it as total depravity, the infection of sin across every inch of the soul. But Jung, standing at the intersection of theology and psychology, revealed what modern minds had forgotten, that the parts of ourselves we label evil don't vanish when ignored. They fester, contort, and take control from the shadows. This is the hidden problem. We mistake virtue for wholeness, but wholeness isn't the absence of darkness. It's the redemption of it. Culture tells you to just be yourself, but only if that self is polished, progressive, and palatable. Churches may preach grace, but often demand performance. Families reward conformity. Social media curates highlight reels. And so, piece by piece, we dismember the self. We send the unwanted parts underground, and what's buried begins to rot. The result is not holiness, it's fragmentation. We are saints in public, but addicts in secret. Parents by day, rage machines by night. Preachers of truth, choked by lies we don't even know we believe. We become strangers to ourselves, and still the shadow waits. Not as a villain, but as a mirror. The great tragedy isn't that we have a dark side. It's that we think denying it makes us righteous. But denial has consequences, and they are coming. You don't need to believe in monsters to be haunted by one. Just look in the mirror long enough and you'll see the cracks. Because here's the truth, what you exile doesn't disappear, it mutates. The suppressed anger you bury beneath politeness, it leaks out as passive aggression, sarcasm, chronic bitterness. The lust you silence in the name of purity, it finds its way into fantasies, double lives, or a numb marriage bed. The pride you rebuke in your morning prayers, it disguises itself as martyrdom, moral superiority, or the quiet addiction to praise. The shadow you ignore becomes the script you unknowingly follow. Cognitive dissonance, when your actions contradict your self-image, creates psychic tension. You pretend you're fine, you play the role, but your nervous system knows better. Your body holds the trauma of your own dishonesty. You wake up tired, not from labor, but from hiding. You lash out at the people you love and don't know why. You pursue success only to sabotage it when it gets close. And worst of all, you look in the mirror and wonder, who even am I anymore? Modern neuroscience confirms what ancient prophets already knew. Unacknowledged parts of the self become automated patterns. Neural pathways carve habits into the mind, and the mind scripts the soul. The more we repress, the more we react. And society doesn't help. We are marinated in curated illusions. Instagram filters, corporate brands masquerading as identities, political tribes offering belonging in exchange for blind allegiance. We are taught to feel shame for feeling shame. So we don't confess. We conform. We don't integrate. We dissociate. And the soul becomes a shattered house. Light in one room, pitch black in the next. But what if the dark rooms are not meant to be condemned, but entered? Because what's hidden is not just dangerous, it's sacred. The first act of rebellion is not to fight the darkness, it's to stop pretending it isn't there. This is the paradox. True righteousness doesn't come from sterilizing the soul, but from integrating it. Christ did not come to put makeup on corpses, he came to raise the dead. And that includes the parts of you you've buried. Jung said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. This is the beginning of wholeness, not the performance of virtue, but the courageous confrontation of everything unredeemed within. Not suppression, not self-indulgence, but transformation. Look at King David, warrior, poet, adulterer, man after God's own heart. He sinned boldly, but he repented boldly too. Or Peter, impulsive, violent, disloyal, and yet the rock on which Christ built his church. God does not choose sanitized saints. He chooses fractured souls who are willing to be seen. What if repentance isn't groveling, but integration? What if confession isn't weakness, but spiritual surgery? The shadow loses power the moment it is named. This is where the Christian worldview offers something no secular system can. Not mere self-acceptance, but redemptive grace. You don't embrace your darkness to make peace with sin, but to offer it up to the one who already carried it. Christ didn't just die for the polished version of you. He died for the rage, the addiction, the jealousy, the pride, the part of you we're taught to disown. And in him, even the shadow can become a doorway. This is the rebellion, to stop curating your soul, to walk into the inner wilderness, to meet Christ not at the altar of your strengths, but in the place where your monsters live. Because only what you bring to the cross can be crucified. Here is the truth, terrible and beautiful. You cannot be fully known unless you are fully seen, and you cannot be fully healed unless you bring the sickness to the light. The shadow you carry is not proof of your failure. It's the very terrain where redemption takes root. This is where the journey comes full circle. Not to self-acceptance, but to self-surrender. Because your darkness is not the enemy of your salvation. It is the place your salvation must begin. The cross is not a stage for your perfection. It is an altar for your brokenness. That means the parts of you thought disqualified you from God's love. Those are the very parts he wants most to touch. Christ did not avoid the shadow. He entered it. He bled in the garden. He descended into hell. He bore the full weight of human darkness. And still, he rose. So must you. You are not called to become good through suppression. You are called to become whole through resurrection. And resurrection requires death. Yes, even the death of your false self, your curated mask, your carefully managed persona. But what rises is something terrifyingly honest and breathtakingly free. Imagine facing your shadow, not with shame, but with courage. Imagine no longer needing to hide. Imagine walking into the darkest parts of yourself and finding not a monster, but a meeting place, a sacred space where grace does not flinch, where Christ says, "Even here I am with you." That's the invitation, not to destroy the darkness, but to let it be redeemed, because in the end, the shadow is not your prison. It's the place where glory begins. Thank you for reflecting with me today. If this video meant something to you, consider liking and subscribing. And until next time, stay curious.